So after that 1 year, I went home for 1 month holiday. And it's during this 1 month holiday that my dad fell sick. The tonsillitis wasn't just tonsillitis, because after some months of treatment, normally we expect tonsillitis to last not more than a week and then it's over. So he goes for some tests. There is a parlor where we receive visitors from outside. Normally, in the convent, when the formator tells you, I want to see you, it's usually alarming. Either you feel you've done a mistake and she wants to face you to confront you about that, or it's something that she has seen you doing and it's not going hand in hand with what the congregation allows. And usually it's never a good thing when a formator randomly tells you, I want to see you in my office. There is this feeling you always have when something bad is happening to your people. I think it's your instincts or it's the connection you have to them. The word cancer sounded like a death sentence, and that's the picture all of us, like most of us, have when we hear our people have cancer. And to make it worse, it was blood cancer. Hi everybody, welcome and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's Lynn Princess again. For those who've always been here, my very wonderful friends, thank you, and thank you for your continued support. For those who are new, make sure to subscribe, like, leave a comment, and kindly share this video with your friends. So I've had so many of you ask me the reason why I left the convent. I've done 2 videos already, so if you've not watched the previous videos, kindly just go back, scroll back, and make sure to watch those 2 videos, because if you don't watch the initial videos, you're going to have a lot of questions. And today I'm going to address the common thing or the bottom line of why everything changed, because I had made a decision as a person. I was ready to do it forever, but then life happened. So I'm going to talk about my dad. Everybody who knows my dad knows he was a very strict father and a very amazing man. So everybody who encountered my dad at any point of life honestly never remained the same. He was a teacher, and he was an amazing teacher, and he taught my mother. Okay, you heard me right. My dad taught my mom in primary school. I know how that sounds in today's world, but back then I think it wasn't a big deal. The age difference wasn't that much. So he was an amazing teacher, and he was the best father for us, and he was a leader. More importantly, he was a leader to the church. He was a leader in the village. I always have very sweet memories of my dad. But the very amazing memory that I have of him is how he was a poet. And usually alikuwa anaandika shairi and he would give me. I practice, I teach myself how to go about it. And then he goes to school, teaches his pupils, and we meet for competitions. So I really had an amazing time because I always won. Yeah, of course, I am a princess and I've always been a princess. So it was an amazing moment for him. It was an amazing winning moment for him every time that we had those competitions, and I was always the winner when he, the elder, had trained his pupils and I had trained myself. So I really had an amazing childhood with my dad, and I always have very sweet memories of him celebrating me. I was very bright in school. I was an amazing gifted child. I was that girl who entertained visitors in school functions. And I always remember him coming for our school functions, not just as a headmaster from another neighboring school, but as my dad was proud of what I did, reciting poems in front of so many people, dancing. I remember I used to comfortably sing and dance Rose Mohando's songs when I was a very small and tiny child. When I say tiny, I am not this tiny now. I was tiny ever since when I was a small girl. So I really have very sweet memories of my dad because he was always my cheerleader. He was the best dad to us, and I always believe that he came to my life the time that I needed most. But also, I feel that he also left the time I needed him most. Because I joined the convent when my dad and my mom were both there, and they were the best parents to me, regardless of how difficult it was to convince them to let me go. But at the end of it, they became very supportive. So after the first year, I already mentioned in my first video of my life story that the first year is called aspirancy, which is 1 year. So after that 1 year, I went home for 1 month holiday. And it's during this 1 month holiday that my dad fell sick. All along in the entire life, he was a very healthy guy. He was these people who don't get sick, but when they get sick, they really get like completely sick. So I remember this month during my holiday, he started having tonsillitis. Commonly we call them tonsils, but it's tonsillitis. So he had tonsillitis. Normally you just go for some antibiotics and that's it. So I left home back to the convent for postulancy. That's the second year when he still had the tonsillitis, but he was on medications. So I go back and remember, I already mentioned that we didn't have a personal phone. So I was using the community phone, which the rules were the family is supposed to call you, I think, mostly once a week, not unless otherwise, not unless there is a very special reason that the family must reach out. So I go back to the convent and I tell my formator that I left my dad not feeling so well. So she kept calling home and checking on them. How is daddy doing? And my formator, apparently, it turned out my postulancy formator was the same sister who came home to tell my parents that I was going to join the convent. So she knew my parents like one on one. So when I told her my dad wasn't feeling okay, she kept calling home and checking on them. And apparently, the tonsillitis wasn't just tonsillitis, because after some months of treatment, normally we expect tonsillitis to last not more than a week and then it's over. And for him, it turned out that after several months, he was still not okay. So he contacted his friend, who is a doctor. I think most of the people know him as Dr. Mutuma. He's the pathologist who conducted the postmortem for Albert. He was my dad's friend because he's from our home. So my dad calls Dr. Mutuma and tells him he has had tonsillitis for a while and they're not subsiding. And then Doc recommends he goes to Machakos for some checkup. So my dad goes to Machakos. I won't mention the specific facilities, but he goes to Machakos for a checkup and he ends up admitted. So when mom calls the convent and says dad got admitted, it kind of got weird because we don't expect people to just get admitted because of just tonsillitis. Little did we know that the studies that were taken needed more needed more tests. Okay, back then I couldn't understand what was happening medically, but today I do. I've been going through my dad's hospital papers, and today I understand what was happening during that time. So he goes for some tests here and there. Doc keeps in touch with him, checking, getting the results from the hospital, and then all of a sudden he recommends a change of the hospital. So my dad was taken from one hospital to the other, but still within Machakos County, within actually Machakos town. So all this time we were in touch with mom, and now we were coming from my house that was in Karen. We were coming just in groups to visit my dad. And from the first day, he didn't look like that sick. He just looked, yes, he was in pain. I couldn't understand the pain. I couldn't really tell what exactly was happening to him. But one thing that I remember, I noticed the very first time that I walked in that hospital is that I noticed my dad was losing weight. And okay, in my family, I think I'm the only tiny, but my dad was also slim. But I could notice he's losing some weight. So at some point I got concerned. Then I had this friend who was in the seminary studying for priesthood, and at some point he accompanied me to go to see him in the hospital because he's from my home place. Right now he's a priest at the Chameleons, he's Father Paul. So Father Paul accompanied me, and The chameleons mostly deal with the sick. So I think from his point of view, he could tell what is happening because he has had a very close interaction with the sick. So he just said he feels dad needs more tests. And true to his word, after a few days, Dr. Mutuma calls again and asks my dad to go to Nairobi Hospital for more tests. And then at this point, it was getting like weird because we didn't know what he was being treated for. We didn't know what exactly was happening. We just know he had tonsillitis from the word go. So dad goes for some tests at the Nairobi hospital, and that time all we depended on was my uncle. My uncle has been a very supportive person in my family. So all we depended on at that point was my uncle, my auntie, and my dad's savings. So doc recommends he should just have the tests done at the Nairobi hospital and then he be taken to KNH for admission. So tests were done, many tests were run, but at this point he was already admitted at KNH. So we used to come from the community, we go to KNH, we say hi to him, back to the community, different days, different people. And honestly, I felt a lot of support from the community. I felt a lot of love, a lot of concern. And I remember even the nurses were complaining that my dad is having so many visitors because people from home, people from his school, so many people are coming to say hi to him. And then after several months of tests run, my uncle running up and down to have all these samples taken and everything, all the bills paid, I remember my fometa, it reached a point because it was like a long term sickness of several months. I wasn't allowed anymore to pick calls from home. So my fometa was the one who was receiving calls from my home. Anytime mom called, anytime anybody called from my family, whether it was my uncle, whether it was my auntie, I say these two because my formator already knew that they were the closest we had. My uncle Patrick and my auntie Mama Ryan. So they were the only people who were allowed to call me outside my mom. And now it turned out that I couldn't pick home calls anymore. So my formator was the one picking calls. So this particular time, one of us sees the phone ringing and it's my mom. And the formator doesn't pick it up. And after some minutes, the formatter takes the phone, goes to the parlor. The parlor is it's like a common room where we receive visitors from outside in the convent. You don't just walk in the convent and go to the sitting room. There is a parlor where we receive visitors from outside. So she's Sister Alice Wanjiru. So she takes the phone and goes to the parlor, and now it becomes suspicious. So my sister now, she's also a sister at the moment. She's Naomi. So Naomi tells me, sister amechukua simu, your mother had called na ameenda nayo pala. It was kind of suspicious. I was already, there is this feeling you always have when something bad is happening to your people. I think it's your instincts or it's the connection you have to them. So I already had a tough moment inside. So sister gets the call, goes, talks to my mom for a long time, and she comes back. Usually we were used to when she gets calls from home, she comes and updates us at the table during dinner or something, and she tells us our dad is doing well, they've run more tests, this and this happened. But this particular time, she doesn't tell us anything. So it becomes more suspicious. But then she calls me aside and tells me, I want to see you. Normally, in the convent, when the formator tells you, I want to see you, it's usually alarming. Either you feel you've done a mistake and she wants to face you to confront you about that, or it's something that she has seen you doing and it's not going hand in hand with what the congregation allows. And usually it's never a good thing when a formator randomly tells you, I want to see you in my office. So she tells me, I want to see you in my office, and of course I thought of the worst. But then she calls me and tells me they have run tests about your dad, and they have actually made a conclusion of what they are treating, and then it's getting sweet here. And then she's like, your father has blood cancer. Okay, I didn't know much about sicknesses that time, but at least the word cancer sounded like a death sentence. And that's the picture all of us, like most of us, have when we hear our people have cancer. And to make it was blood cancer. So she tells me your dad has blood cancer and they are going to plan on starting chemotherapy sessions, radiotherapy sessions, because it turns out it is fourth stage. Yeah, cancer is graded in stages: first, second, third, and fourth. When it's first and second, it's not very alarming. Chemo and radio can help. But when it's fourth and fifth, now that's worse. In as much as chemo and radio can help, it's not very promising. So she gives me time to cry, of course. She gives me the phone to talk to my mom. My mom was very strong. My mom was, she just kept going for us, because that time my young brother was in Form 4, the other brother was in Class 8, and the two last ones were in Primary 3 and 4. So mom had to, and our elder sister was, I think she was working by then. So she had to remain strong for us, which she did. But then this was something that I didn't know how to face. I didn't know how to go and talk to my dad about it in the hospital. So this time my uncle organizes a group of friends. They organize on Harambe because we needed a lot of money for chemo, for radio, and already the hospital bill was too much. So my uncle struggles all the way. They get money and chemo sessions are planned to start and everything else is ready, and we're just hopeful that these sessions will help. So when everything is set, sister calls me, we go and visit my dad in the hospital this particular evening on a Sunday. And we go to visit him and he looked so sick, like not the way I found him the previous days. So I just asked the nurses just nicely, and then one of the nurses told me, you know, the doctor who broke the news to your dad wasn't kind enough. He just told him, we have found out that you have stage 4 cancer of the blood. So, as a normal person, when someone just approaches you, not in a kind way, and just tells you, ukona cancer ya damu stage 4, like, I think it's something so dehumanizing. I think it's something, now that I'm in the medical field, I always see us having conferences. I always see us having, like, when you have to pass, when the surgeon has very critical information to pass to patients, it's not just like a blow. You first have a conference with the family and you tell them in a soft way, in a nice way, that we've done tests here and there and this is what we found out. And then the family decides whether to tell the patient or not. So personally I felt like it was so inhuman, just coming directly to a patient and telling them you have stage 4 blood cancer. Honestly, that was inhuman. So I feel that my dad took it so heavily, because of course nobody would take that positive. That's not good news. So I think it really affected him in a way that he lost his weight, he became so sick, and kidogo kidogo he was just losing it. So this particular day I got to visit him in the hospital and I tell him, dad, you'll be fine, we're praying for you in the convent every day. We used to pray for my dad, all of us in the whole region, in every prayers, morning prayers, midday prayers, evening prayers, every community used to pray for the healing of my dad. So I showed him, you'll be fine, we're really really praying for you. And for the first time in my life I had my dad give up. So he told my colleague, I had gone with one of my sisters who already left. She also left actually after me. So he requested my sister to step out of the room, and then he told me, I don't think I will get well. But if I do, that's your faith, not mine. So for me, that was like a loss of hope. And he added to say, but if I don't get well, just take care of the other kids and take care of my things. I didn't break down. I'm always this person who will just remain strong for people who need me. So I remained strong, encouraged him, prayed for him, held his hand and said a prayer. And I told him, I'll do all I can. I'll just talk to God to just heal you and give you another chance to live. But he still insisted, I don't think I will be well. But if I get well, it's your faith. And if I don't get well, just take care of the other kids. Makiu, I'm in my second year of formation. I'm still very young. I joined the convent immediately after high school. So I was still young. I think I was just 19. So I go back to the convent and I tell my formator what my dad told me. So my formator is a nurse by profession. So she says my dad needs to be asked to write a will. Okay, so this already for me was like a sign that things are not really going well. So my formator says, I'll talk to your uncle Patrick and we plan on someone coming to the hospital, him or your auntie or your mom, whoever is available, and then they'll have to ask your dad to write a will. So I don't know whether I actually until today I don't know whether they talked about the will. I don't know whether they had time to talk. So the same night, the very same day that I went to visit my dad in the hospital and he told me these words, my mom calls late at night and says the hospital has called her and they want her to urgently go to the hospital. And apparently she had gone home because our last born was sick. I remember something had happened to her and she was all of a sudden sick. So mom had to come from Nairobi. She was actually staying at my cousin's place and to go back home. So this night they call her that she's urgently needed in the hospital. She's not within Nairobi, she's at home. So she tells whoever called that she will come tomorrow early morning. And then she asked if it's something urgent, they can call the sisters and tell them. But apparently, it turns out we didn't get any call from the hospital on our side. So mom just called my formator and told her what had happened. So the following day, mom, very early in the morning, goes to the hospital, and she didn't. I think she didn't go alone. I think she went with my wife, my cousin's wife. So she goes, and I was preparing to go to the hospital, but then all of a sudden, sister calls me and says, chill, just wait a bit. We need to organize something with sisters from the other community because I was in the novitiate house, but I was in postulancy. So we were in Karen, but a house near the sister's house, but it's not the same house. So she told me to wait a little bit because the sisters from the community wanted to accompany us to the hospital. I didn't overthink actually. I was like, okay, at least it's a Sunday. I think it was Sunday. I think it's a Sunday. The sisters are in the house, so they'll be accompanying us to the hospital. Little did I know. So my sister in my group was asked to pack my clothes and secretly take them to the community of sisters. So she went to my room. Everybody in the formation has their room. So she went to my room, packed just a few things, and took to the sister's side. So Sister Alice, who was my formator, this was so wise of her. I always thank God for her. She tells me that she's Sister Margaret Mutiso, wants to go with us, but she will be going, I think, home after that. She just found a very mature lie because now Sister Margaret was supposed to be carrying my clothes. Because normally you are a religious, you don't walk around with a lot of things. You just maybe have your handbag with your rosary and just a few things. So of course I'll be surprised when sister comes out of their community with a suitcase. So sister tells me we're going with Sister Margaret and she'll be going home after this. So I wasn't surprised when Sister Margaret walked out with a suitcase. Of course it wasn't mine. They were wise enough to use someone else's bag. So I didn't know. We get our car from the community and we go to KNH. Okay.